So again, I'm a huge hip-hop fan, and in terms of the like beef between Biggie Smalls and Tupac, I gotta go with Biggie Smalls. Even though I'm from California, Ready to Die is one of my favorite albums of all time. And I used to listen to this on a little Walkman in high school. I went to high school in the early 2010s, but I still had a Walkman because I was cool. So, like Dr. Dre's 2001, the main just stuff about this album that blows my mind are the beats and the flows and how they coincide. Like, Biggie's flow is just on a higher plane. And it's like, just every little flow he does is just so tasty and so, it's almost like you're hearing an acrobat kind of flip around on the beat, and he takes stuff and turns it around and kind of pushes it over to the next bar, and it's just a joy to hear all these cool things he does with the rhythms and just cool rhyme schemes. It's incredible. There are videos on YouTube that explain like how his flow works, and it's really an art, and people kind of like throw hip hop to the side like, oh, the music sucks, but it really takes talent, and it's an art coming up with different flows and rhyme schemes and stuff, even regardless of what you're talking about. And this album isn't really making any kind of like huge statement or talking about anything deep, but there are little like windows into this like street life that he's trying to talk about that are really fascinating. Like again, this album has a lot of like misogyny, but I mean, if you look past that, the technical aspects are really amazing. Like, and the stories are just fascinating. The way he goes through a story, you're like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? Like in Me and My Bitch. And it's also, the stuff he says is also really funny too. Like, you look so good, huh, I suck on your daddy's dick. Like, that's like so iconic and funny. But the story is also just fascinating, like, and then at the end, spoilers, but she dies, and then he's like, they killed my best friend, and he just drops the mic, and it's just like, whoa. You know, like, there's a bunch of little stories on this album, like, the story of his life, Respect, is just so freaking cool and amazing, and there's so many iconic lines, and he kind of paints the picture of, what I love about hip-hop is people kind of paint pictures in really cool and unique ways, and he kind of like throws a spin on everything that happened to him in a really cool and slick way. Not to mention, the beats slap just so hard. My favorite song on the album is probably Unbelievable, because the beat is just unbelievable, and it sounds so fat and cool and just kind of offbeat, and the greatest, like, the coolest flow and rhyme scheme on the whole album is like in Unbelievable, when he's like, hunt me or be hunted, I got 357 ways to simmer saute, I'm the winner all day. There's just like, if you dissect that, there's so much cool stuff going on where he rhymes like obviously all day with saute, but also with be hunted, I got 300, like, there's just a little rhyme in there that is just so offbeat and off kilter, and it's so cool. I also really love the What, and Method Man is also one of the greatest rappers of all time. And also, if you're a fan of Red Letter Media, you might recognize that song pretty immediately, because it's the I squeeze gats till my clips is empty song. And it's just such a cool line that it works so well, even if you just loop that line over and over again, because it's just he's just so good at coming up with these iconic phrases just out of nowhere, and it's so cool. And I gotta say, this album just sounds so much more like mature and classy and slick than his posthumous album Life After Death. I mean, it's got songs like I Need Another Bitch in My Life, and he's like singing. It's like, don't make him sing. And who could forget the classic romantic love ballad, I'm fucking you tonight. I still love that song, for the record. But Ready to Die is obviously much better, and it's just one of my favorite albums ever. Too good. Another album I really want to talk about is Weightless by Pogo. This album, all I can say about it is that it sounds like love. It just sounds like, I mean, like the Avalanches, it's full of samples, But again, it takes such talent, and it's such an art trying to come up with ways to put the samples together and make it sound so cohesive and make it sound like its own thing. It's just seamless. You don't even hear the differences between the other songs, the way that Pogo puts them together, and it just sounds like love. It sounds like caring. It sounds like the most pure, heartfelt sentiments on earth. Like, if you listen to Giving just sounds like, it does sound like the end credits to something. It has that vibe where it just sounds like you're watching all your memories from your past and old cartoons you used to watch or something, and just feeling like, wow, life is beautiful. And there's a song called Cupboard Shaker, which is made up of like 5 different samples from different songs, and it is just so cohesive and so slamming. It slams. And the kind of like filters he puts on stuff and the way he speeds it up just makes everything sound just so dreamy and heartfelt and sincere. Like, all the reverb he puts on it just makes it sound so ethereal and heartfelt. It's hard to explain, but like, also There You Are is one of the greatest pop songs that I've heard. It's just, and that song made me cry recently just because I first heard this album when I was first starting college, and I recently graduated from college, and it just like made me cry because that's like, I just found the keys to a city, because I was moving like to a new city, and I was like, so that song holds a lot of special memories to me, and it just makes me feel love. It just makes me feel love for my past and for life, and even the kind of silly songs have this lust for life about them. Even like the sad songs like Final Drive or whatever feel like a sincere like memory of loss or something, and you can't have loss without love. Like, the whole album just emanates love, and you're just thinking like, it sounds like loss, but it also sounds like just something so sincere and heartfelt, and it's hard to explain, but I love Pogo's music. I think he is amazing as a musician. And I think Weightless is a really accurate album title, because like, songs like Smack and Snack, it's hard to say, songs like Smack and Snack actually make me feel weightless. Like, the way that the beat kind of like goes half time for a second, and it's like, I want you to get down, and you're just like floating for a second, and jungle, like songs like Jungle Dash, like they're going so fast, but at the same time there's this kind of like slowness to them where you feel like you're like hovering. Also highly recommend Data and Picard for anyone who's a fan of Star Trek TNG, because it sounds like the show. Like, they're literally samples from the show, but also the love and the vibe and the humor of the song feels like the show, which I'm watching right now, and it's really cool. Okay, so now we're in the top 2. These are my 2 favorite albums ever. And they're both hip-hop albums, if you can believe it. So the first album I want to talk about is Saturation 3 by Brockhampton. Even my cat likes the album, see? This album represents everything I love about hip-hop, and it's exactly what hip-hop should be, in my opinion. It's just rappers saying real things, like stuff that feels so raw and real and emotional, but also there's stuff that's so funny and so clever and so kind of off the wall, and not only that, not only what they're saying, but the production is insane. Like, a song will start off and it'll have this really just slapping weird beat with that sounds like it's tearing into you, with how electric and how punchy it is and how weird it is, and as soon as you get tired of that, it switches it up, changes to a different kind of beat, might go half time for a second, and just turn into some other weird beat with some weird high-pitched sample or something, and it just sounds, I don't know, it gets into my brain, and I'm such a huge fan of that album that it's just what I put on whenever I need to hear anything. I'm just like, I don't know what to listen to. Let me listen to Saturation 3 for the 40 millionth time, because I never get tired of it. Like, I don't even know what songs to talk about, because all the songs just blow my mind. Like the lyrics are funny, but it also sounds like something you would freestyle when you're just depressed about life. Like, things ain't been the same since my dog died, since my girl left. You know, you feel like you're hearing a guy's like actual thoughts, and you're like, whoa. But at the same time, there's just stuff that's so off the wall and so funny, and which mainly comes from Merlin. I mean, Don McLennan is probably the most talented member. just his flow is ridiculous. But Merlin, I think, is my favorite member just because he comes up with the most random, hilarious shit and the most off-the-wall flows that just really make me laugh, and stuff that he's talking about is just so funny. Like, I got addicted to soft shell tacos. Like, who says that in a song? It's just so funny. Not only that, but he also mentions one of my favorite YouTubers, Tony Fantano, in Zipper, and I'm actually kind of channeling Tony Fantano right now as we speak. Hey everybody, summerpwoods Tano here. Anyway, I just love this album so much, and it's stupid good. So now we're gonna talk about my favorite album ever. It was a lot of debating with myself and just really, okay, actually there was no debate. It's To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar. When I first heard this album, did not get it. I didn't get it. I was like, this is weird. It's just all this jazz and what is going on? But then I just kept trying to get it. And one day I just like looked into the lyrics and I kept reading the lyrics and I was like, I get it now. This is so cool. And then sonically I kind of got it even more, and then it just became my favorite album ever. Yeah, like, my favorite genre is hip-hop, and this just shows what potential hip-hop has to be amazing and to be so meaningful and so beautiful, and it just runs the entire spectrum of human emotions. There's such joy on this, like in I Love Myself, or in I, when he says I love myself, and in You, it's just the depths of despair. You can hear him, you know, condemning himself and just being like, even God would say you fucking failed, and he's just drinking. You can hear his teeth hitting the bottle, and then there's just like anger, self-loathing, jealousy, greed, you know, you feel all this stuff, and just like selfishness, and at the same time there's compassion on all these different tracks, and I've cried so many times listening to it. Like, one of these things I always cry at is in Complexion, A Zulu Love, when he says, let the Willie Lynch theory reverse a million times, because I believe the Willie Lynch theory is just like a thing about this slave owner said, like, we should make all the slaves hate each other and fight against each other, and that's how we're gonna be even more effective at owning them. And it's just so fucked up that when he says reverse a million times, it's just the most beautiful imagery you can imagine. It just makes me think of like this tapestry of evil just like unrolling and being free of the past, and it's just full of so much love, and it's such a beautiful way to say it, and there's just so many little moments like that on this album. And I cry too when I hear You, and I cry when I hear How Much a Dollar Costs, because that song is nuts. It's like a little fairy tale. It reminds me of Beauty and the Beast, how like the old woman at the beginning is like secretly this sorceress, and it's just a beautiful story. And I mean, this album really is not exactly meant for me. I mean, do I look black? But it is also relatable. There's certain things that everyone can relate to, like the selfishness, the greed, the lust, the self. Well, that's the next album, but the self-loathing and the self-love. It's just it has a lot of universal experiences on it too. But just like anyone can relate to like being approached by a homeless person and being like feeling selfish about what I have. Like, I earned this, but then at the same time, it kind of sheds a light on like compassion and just what it means to be selfless. And not only that, but sonically, it's just nuts. The voices, ethereal voices, just singing. It's more to feed your mind. And also in like Mortal Man, at the beginning, when all those voices are just like, oh, it's the most beautiful like ethereal thing, and it just makes me feel like I'm ascending to heaven, floating or something, and floating like Aladdin. But I always come back to that album, and it's always just crazy how much I love it. It's amazing sonically, it's amazing the meaning of what it is, and it's also amazing technically. Just like the flows that he drops are nuts. Like in Hood Politics, which is one of my favorite songs on the album, which isn't really saying much because all of them are my favorite, but in Hood Politics, when he's like, K-Dot, what up, I heard they opened up Pandora's box, and the beat kind of stops for a second, it's seriously like watching a gymnast do a backflip, and you're like, because it feels like he's letting go of the beat, and he's kind of like getting off the beat, but then he just sticks it so hard, and you're like, it's like that gif. And then it's just incredible the technical ability he has, as well as the ability he has to just write this poetry. And the interview with Tupac at the end is just so seamless. It's like you start questioning, you're like, did he really bring Tupac back from the dead? It's just so incredible, and I love that it doesn't leave everything answered. There's still a lot of like questions about it, and it makes you think. And again, like, this album really wasn't exactly meant for me, I guess, but it did. The great thing is, it inspired me to learn about the kind of stuff that he talks about on this album, like politics and race, and just seeing the other side of the struggle and being like, oh my god, you know, maybe I should look into this a little more. And so that's what I'm really thankful that I heard that album, because it kind of gave me this new perspective on what is going on in our country, you know, and I just love it. I just love it. So yeah, maybe these weren't the albums you were expecting to hear from me based on the covers that I do and based on the other stuff that I do, but these are legitimately my favorite albums ever. And if you'd like to talk to me about it in the comments, feel free. If you want to recommend me even more stuff to listen to, I'm down based on what I've said. Also, if you want to hear my honorable mentions, I am putting an honorable mention video on my Patreon, so it's going to include 5 or 6 more albums that I really want to talk about that I just didn't feel like they measured up to the top 10, but they're still some of my favorite albums ever. So if you want to hear my video on that, it'll be on my Patreon. So anyway, I just really want to thank you for watching. I've never done anything like this, so if you have any suggestions about what you guys want to see, if you guys want to see more videos like this, I'm down. Maybe my top 10 favorite songs of all time or something, or I don't know, my top 10 favorite flavors of ice cream. I don't know, give me a suggestion in the comments, I'll think about it. And again, just want to thank you so much for watching, and yeah, so now that you've seen this, go check out some more of me, and check out my original music, that'll be in the description, or whatever, you know, just whatever. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe. I know it's annoying to hear that, but it really does help with my channel, and it's just a really simple way to support me. If you don't want to, you know, join me on Patreon or whatever, just give it a like, and I will give you a like, because I like you, all of you. Anyway, so thank you so much again for listening, and I'll see you next time.